Welcome to MacStories Unwind, a weekly review of everything MacStories and more. Today's show is brought to you by UpNote. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, I think it was last week, maybe it was a week ago on App Stories, I mentioned how we would be recording again soon, and I would probably be under many more feet of snow. And the fact is, I am. I've sent you some pictures. I've got piles of snow as high as 7 feet tall, more than 2 meters tall in my backyard, which I hope that doesn't all melt at once because it's going to cause quite a flood if that happens.
That is, I struggle to comprehend the kind of weather that you have, that amount of snow. Like, that amount of snow I've only seen in the movies, I think, and in your pictures.
Right.
So,
Well, it's one of those things where we had a pretty mild winter leading into February, and then all of a sudden, it's just been snowing nearly every day for the last week and a half or so. But
every day?
Practically. I mean, not every single day, but it all last weekend into the beginning of the week, and then we had a little bit of a break. So it's supposed to snow again this weekend, though. So it's coming back at least a little bit. And then we'll hopefully get a little warmer weather next week to melt a little bit of it off because there's just a lot of snow.
How can you live like that? I'm sorry, I don't get it.
Well, I don't like it, and eventually I'm going to move. But that's a topic for Unplugged or something another day.
Okay.
But we're this weather is not the best, especially this time of year, and being stuck inside on top of it. Why don't we dig into our stories this week? We've got a bunch of things that we published this week. At the very top, I guess I would mention the Logitech Circle View doorbell review that I did. Now, that's a little bit of a mouthful. The Logitech Circle View.
Oh, come on, it's such an intuitive name.
It is. The Logitech Circle View 2 is just an indoor-outdoor camera, but this is the version of that, but that's a doorbell, and it's a narrow rectangular doorbell that sticks out from the door jamb about an inch or so. I've been really impressed with it. It's HomeKit compatible. It has HomeKit secure video, which actually is recognizing my face now. Because as I'm doing that snow shoveling, Federico, I get notifications on my wrist that it has detected a person, and that person is me. And it says in fact that it is me. So
wow. And does that make you feel sad?
It does. It does.
So these
just a little bit.
The screenshots. This is actually from the view from your home.
Yes.
Your front porch. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
And lots and lots of snow.
That is a lot of snow. Wow. Okay.
I think I told you right before I published that. I said, I got to wait till tomorrow to take the pictures of the doorbell because it's snowing so hard that it's dark outside and they would look terrible. So I finally got a little bit of sunshine and took some pictures.
There's a photo with a bunch of Amazon delivery bags.
Yeah, we get a lot of deliveries. That's all this camera captures.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 bags.
Well, those are groceries.
There's another with a picture with a dude with another delivery guy, I think.
Bringing our dinner one night. Yes,
that's dinner. Okay, very good. And you set up the activity area, makes sense, the activity zone, because you can do this in HomeKit secure video. You don't want to be alerted by the movement of passing cars in the street, for example, or your neighbors. So it makes sense that you created a zone. This is cool. I mean, the weather is unfortunate, but it's a really cool setup.
Yeah, no, it's been really handy, primarily for packages. When they're delivered, I can see, on my Mac or on my iPhone what's going on outside. One thing that to really highlight about this camera is that it has color night vision, which I didn't really know what that would be like until I tried it. I've got the older Circle View 2 cameras, and if you have those outside at night, they can see, they have infrared or some other way to see in low light. However, the images tend to be kind of black and white. This actually has color, which is quite nice and it uses HDR during the day and I think at night too, to kind of enhance the image on the processor in the camera, which makes it easier to kind of pick out what's going on in the scene, whether it's, you can't really tell whether there's a package on the porch or not. It just works really, really well from a hardware standpoint on top of the HomeKit integration. So I really had nothing I could say about it that I felt like needed to be better than it is. It was really really solid device. Hooks into your existing wiring of your doorbell, which means it doesn't require a battery, which is good. And they offer professional installation if you're not comfortable doing that kind of thing yourself. So nice product.
All right, John. So tell me, what is kitty letter?
Kitty letter, which is, a play on kitty litter, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I was about to ask. Okay.
Right. It's a terrific word game from Matthew Inman, who is the artist behind the Oatmeal comic on the web and the Exploding Kittens game. And this game it's interesting because it's one of those games that I like a lot because it's got a classic genre that has a twist on it. And the classic genre here is taking a jumble of individual letters and making words with them and getting points based on that. There are a ton of games that do something similar on the App Store. But what Kitty Letter does is it also has kind of a tower defense angle to it, where as you spell these words, you launch armies of kittens that march across the screen to attack your opponent, which is either someone you're playing against or, the app itself. And there are incoming kittens, and there's your opponent on the other side of the street, and you launch cats, and they cross the street, and they either take out the cats that are coming at you, or they hit your opponent's house. And the game ends when either your house or the house across the street burns to the ground, basically.
Interesting.
Because the cats explode. I should mention the cats do explode as they hit the other cats or they hit the house.
Obviously.
Yes, obviously. And there's a whole bunch of different modes here. There's a story mode, which really leverages kind of the humor and storytelling of the Oatmeal comic. It's kind of fun to play that version and follow the story along. There's single player mode and arcade mode where you're just trying to rack up points. And there is multiplayer mode where you can actually play with someone. You can do matchmaking with a random person on the web, or you can play against a friend or family member or whatever. And it's really an addictive game. I've enjoyed playing it. There's strategy elements to it. You have to be fast, but you also have to think about how to best spell the words to thwart the cats that are coming at you. So there's a lot of different layers going on all at once here, and it's free, so there's really no reason not to at least give it a try and see if it's the kind of game for you.
All right. For All Mankind, Season 2 is out today.
Yes,
in fact,
it is. That's
on
right.
Apple TV Plus. This is a series I've been looking forward to watching again. So in case you missed it, For All Mankind was one of the debut shows for Apple TV Plus in 2019, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
Man, 2020 really disappeared.
It really did.
Did it even happen?
Yes, it did. It really, though?
Unfortunately, it did.
It turned into 2021, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's all blended together at this point. In any case, For All Mankind Season 2, For All Mankind, it's the series which imagines a world where the Soviet Union was first to land on the moon and all the effects of that single change in history. Really fascinating series. I loved the ending of Season 1, which I will not spoil in case you haven't seen it. Season 2 is out now, and Apple, for the first time, they're launching an official podcast for an Apple TV Plus show. For All Mankind, the official podcast, is available on Apple Podcasts. I think it's also available... Oh, no, there's also the trailer is on YouTube. But you can find the show on Apple Podcasts. So there's also RSS support in case you don't want to use Apple Podcasts.
Right.
So you can use it in Castro, Overcast, whatever is your podcast client of choice. Episodes will be released every 2 weeks, I think.
Yes,
for some reason. They're releasing episodes every 2 weeks, and you can expect from the show, hosted by Chris Marshall, who plays Commander Daniel Poole on For All Mankind, sort of a look behind the scenes of the show, the people involved in creating the show. There's going to be space experts, astronauts, all kinds of interesting people and scientists talking about space exploration and the making of For All Mankind. So definitely, a fantastic idea. This is exactly what we thought Apple should have done for Apple TV Plus content. This is not a novel idea of having an official podcast for a TV show. We've seen this done before on HBO, on Hulu, on all kinds of other shows. It's definitely the right approach for Apple because they own both Apple TV Plus and Apple Podcast. So why not, right? So For All Mankind, the official podcast, you can watch the first episode of season 2, and then you can subscribe to the show if you want to get more out of season 2 of For All Mankind.
All right. Also this week, we heard about the new platform security user guide from Apple. The guide itself isn't new, but there are an awful lot of new sections added just this week. And in addition to new sections, there are changes to others. It's a good place to start if you're ever curious about what's going on with the security of Apple's platforms. It's a great place to begin. There are, an awful lot of sections added this year that relate to the M1 chip more than anything else, as well as the OS updates. So, you'll find things in there like a description of how the Apple car key system works, where you can use your iPhone to unlock the car doors of certain cars, and how the boot up sequence works with an M1 Mac. It's there's a lot of detail there. There's pages after pages after pages of things. This is the kind of document that's often used by IT professionals to kind of audit what Apple's doing to make sure it complies with their own internal systems. But it's also written kind of a nice plain English way that if you're just interested in those sorts of topics, it's a good place to look. And finally, this week, Federico, we got in iOS 14.5 beta 2 for developers a whole bunch of new emojis, which
I don't want to know.
I was going to say which I can't tell you about because I know you have another podcast called Connected. Okay. If people aren't familiar with it, it is a wonderful show. And you are going to be participating in the Jeremys once this version of iOS comes out, where you will be tasked with figuring out what these emojis are and what they're called.
Which is literally the only thing I take seriously on Connected.
I know you do. So you're a very competitive person.
So, no spoilers, please.
No. There will be no spoilers, but there are a handful of new emoji. It's not as many as in the past because apparently what has occurred is that the Unicode Consortium has changed their schedule for when they're going to be approving new emoji. And because of that transition, they went with a much smaller number at this point. And so we'll see these at some point in the spring, whenever 14.5 comes out, maybe sometime in March. Hopefully that'll be when it is, and then you can listen to Federico try to figure out what these various images are. All right, Federico, why don't you tell us what happened on the club this week?
On the club this week, I personally wrote about Spotify stations as a favorite. I explained my why and how I use Spotify stations in the newsletter, but essentially Spotify stations is this lesser-known utility made by Spotify. It's an official Spotify companion app that lets you create radio stations for specific artists or moods or genres based on your Spotify listening activity. And it's really well done, really unique, the way that you interact with the app, the way that you can configure these radio stations, and obviously comes with support for Spotify Connect, so you can stream audio to an Amazon Echo or to a PlayStation console or to any other Spotify Connect-enabled device. And it's really well done, and I wish that more people paid attention to this. Alex did a collection of diagramming and mind mapping apps on iOS and Mac. This is exactly the kind of collection that usually leads me down the rabbit hole of downloading apps from the App Store again. Because mind mapping apps, I'm pretty happy with MindNode myself, but you can never have enough. They're just like text editors and clipboard managers, and before we switch to email clients, there's always something new that you want to check out. So definitely go see this collection. And lastly, we are continuing our exploration of GoodTask. This time, John wrote about this GoodTask setup. How would you describe it or summarize it, John?
Well, I guess there are, as I describe in the article, there are 3 dimensions along which I kind of organize GoodTasks. Those are my project lists, dates, and tags. And I've kept everything to those 3 things and generated a bunch of different smart lists that combine those. And along with the quick actions, which I know you wrote about in the club a few weeks ago, I've come up with a system that works really well for me. It's what it's been able to do, which other systems haven't really lived up to in the past, is that when I get really busy, I'm still able to keep it manageable and for it not to get out of control. And that's been a struggle I've had in the past with other task managers, but there's a flexibility with GoodTask that is really amazing. And if you spend a little time to build a system that kind of fits with the way you work, I think you can arrive at a system that is like this, that actually holds up under pressure. And that's why I've been really happy about it and what I wrote about. All right, Federico, I also should mention that this week we also published App Stories 205, which is an episode that I really enjoyed, that we talked about things that the Mac could steal from the iPad. Features, whether it's hardware or software or whatever, that things the Mac could still learn from the iPad. There's been a lot of, convergence between those two platforms over the last couple of years, but there is still some low-hanging fruit, things that the Mac could implement in its own Mac-like way that would make it a better platform coming from the iPad. And next week on App Stories, this is a little preview, we're going to flip that question on its head and see what the iPad could learn from the Mac. So it's just an exploration of both those platforms to see where are the places where Apple can kind of cross-pollinate and find things that would make each individual platform a little stronger. All right, Federico, let me tell you about our sponsor this week, both for Unwind and MacStories, and that is UpNote, an elegant way to take notes on iOS and the Mac. UpNote is a powerful note-taking app that works across a bunch of different platforms. It's designed to make it super easy to take notes and stay focused. It combines a beautiful interface with a fluid workflow for a refined note-taking experience. The app works on iOS, the Mac, and Windows, and there's an Android version coming soon, so it makes it a perfect solution for anyone who needs to access their notes across multiple platforms, thanks to its fast, reliable sync. The app uses colorful themes with lots of font choices to help you make UpNote your very own, organizing those notes into notebooks, pinning them, bookmarking them too, so that you can get to them quickly. There's even a focus mode, and the app lets you lock it, so it's perfect for things like journaling. UpNote has a fully featured text editor that supports rich text, bidirectional linking, nested lists, images, attachments, tables, and code blocks. And of course, there's Markdown support too. The app includes a subscription and lifetime upgrade option. And until the end of February, MacStories readers can purchase UpNote's lifetime premium upgrade for 50% off, which is an amazing deal. So go on over to getupnote.com to download the app today and learn more. Again, that's getupnote.com, and I'll add a link to the show notes as well. Our thanks to UpNote for their support of Unwind and MacStories. All right, Federico, let's flip over to our Unwind picks. What have you got for me today? I think this is a bit of a surprise. You told me the category, but I don't know what you're picking just yet.
I got another video game.
Nice.
For Nintendo Switch. However, it's one of the video games from my backlog. This game came out in late 2019, so finally catching up. It's Luigi's Mansion 3. I purchased this game the day it came out in 2019. It sat on the home screen of my Switch for over a year. And finally, I started playing this game a few days ago. And as I suspected, for the past 16 months, I'm in love with this game. I just
finally,
I can confirm. I'm a little late to the party, but I can confirm that it's an excellent game, and it's bringing back all those feelings of the original Luigi's Mansion for GameCube. Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube, it's one of my all-time favorite games. Not just because I have fond memories of playing and finishing that game with my friends and the GameCube in general, but just how shockingly good it was as a spin-off, Mario game featuring Luigi and featuring this mansion infested with ghosts. It just felt so different at the time, and the graphics were amazing, and all the little touches were incredible. The way that they animated Luigi, and all those, fun and quirky moments. It was an excellent game. And then Luigi's Mansion 2 on the 3DS, it took a different approach where you had the central hub and it was based on quests and missions. It didn't really have that sense of free exploration and adventure and discovering things as in the original Luigi's Mansion. And from what I've seen so far, Luigi's Mansion 3 goes back to the roots of the series. You have this hotel that for a bunch of reasons, you're visiting with Mario, Peach, and an army of toads. All of your friends, including Mario and Peach, are transformed into paintings, and you as Luigi are once again alone, aided by a super cute ghost puppy called the Polter Pup, who's your trusted companion. You have to explore this hotel, sucking up ghosts with your vacuum cleaner retrofitted as a ghost capturing machine. And it's obviously, the graphics are incredible on the Nintendo Switch compared to the GameCube, but it's got that sense of exploring a hotel, which is made of, I don't know how many floors. It's more like a tower, really. And you're free to go. There's an elevator. You can go from floor to floor. You can switch from room to room. And what I love so far is the variety. Each floor is different, and the sense of discovering secrets, because not only with your vacuum cleaner you can suck up ghosts, but you can also interact with the environment. And so you can open drawers, you can open closets, you can remove cloths from tables, for example, curtains from windows. There's a lot of interactions that you can do with your environment. And obviously the character of Luigi was super afraid of everything, and right. and jumps at anything that is even remotely scary is obviously hilarious. And from what I've seen so far, it's a very addictive game, because there's that sense of exploration of the whole building, but it's also very much structured in room by room type of exploration. So there's the bigger whole, which is the hotel, but there's also the more bite-sized approach that makes it easy to pick it up, do a bunch of rooms, then stop playing, then do it again. It's a hard game to put down for me. Brings back a lot of memories. It's the Luigi's Mansion. It's that game from 20 years ago, reimagined for Nintendo Switch, reimagined for more collectible items, upgrades, a lot of more variety in the enemies that you fight, more variety in the moves that you can perform. And obviously, once again, I realized this game came out almost 2 years ago. I'm finally just playing it. If you never played it before, trust me, it's not a scary game. You can play it at night, which I do. It's more than scary. It's just hilarious to see Luigi being scared of ghosts. It's a delightful, addictive, lovingly crafted game. I really, really recommend it.
Yeah, it's a terrific game, and I can't give you a hard time for not playing it for almost 2 years, because I bought it when it came out at the end of 2019, and I have only played a very small portion of it. So yeah. This serves as a good reminder that it's one that I should get back to as well. I have a music pick for you this week, Federico, and it's a new album by Lucy Daydream called, quite interestingly, The Infinite Quest for the Rainbow Butthole.
Okay.
All right. And you should check out the cover art, because it's interesting as well. This is a great short album. It's 8 songs only. It's really upbeat songs. I like the soundscape here a lot, the vocals, the arrangements. It's a really terrific album. 2 of my favorite songs are Blood, which was released a little early, and that's how I knew this was coming out. I'd been listening to that for a while now. The album came out at the end of January, I believe. But Blood is a great song. That's the last song on the album. But there's also No Perfect Love, which I think I like even more. It's those 2 songs in particular I've been listening to a lot over the past week. But this is one I highly recommend. You should check it out. All right, Federico, that's it for this week. You can find the 2 of us over on MacStories.net. I want to thank our sponsor for this episode again. That is Upnote. And Federico is over on Twitter and Instagram, where he's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.